Well, hello, everyone. It's so great to have you all join us today. My name is Melissa McDonald. I am our Director of Development here at Brighter Bites, and we are thrilled that you were able to join us for our third and final day of our show and tell series, our first ever webinar series that we've been able to have at Brighter Bites. I thought I'd take a minute before we jump in with our fun panelists today and just give a little recap. For those of you that weren't able to join us, day one, we focused on filling the plate. We looked at our special formula that we have in looking and understanding that we do produce distribution, we have our nutrition education, and then we have our fun food experience and opportunities to learn. And so we provide 50 servings of fresh fruits and vegetables to our families on a bi-weekly distribution. We have in-class nutrition education that our amazing schools help us provide, along with providing recipes, toolkits, how-to guides to be able to do at home nutrition education as well. And then second day, we also, day one, got to be able to hear from two of our amazing partners. One, Good Pops, is a new funder of ours, and then a produce partner, Food Forward in Los Angeles, got to share kind of their why and how they work with us. On day two, we had a great time talking with Dr. Shrila Sharma, our co-founder and research lead, and really looking at more of that impact and looking at the data and evaluation that we do. And just to note that all of our recordings, all of our webinars have been recorded, and we'll be sending out information to all of those that have registered, so that if you missed the first day or so, you'll have an opportunity to go back and listen to that. But today, we get to spend time with three very special school contacts of ours. I've got Brian sitting right over here, and I saw earlier we have our other two panelists. But while Brian is spotlighted here, I will share. So Brian is Brian Galbraith, the principal at Cherokee Lane in Prince George's County, Maryland. An area that we've been working with over a little over 5 years, almost about 6-ish years. And then we also have Dr. Kim Broadway, principal at Hodges Elementary School in Dallas in Mesquite ISD. And then we have another wonderful Prince George's County representative. We have Miss Amy Martinez Sanchez, and Amy is the community school coordinator at Riverdale Elementary School in Prince George's County. So we're excited to have you all. To our attendees, I do ask, definitely use the chat box. We're going to have this be a little interactive with our panelists today, but if you have any questions specific to our schools or to any of our staff, please drop it in there and we'll make sure to address those. So school folks, how are you all?
Doing great, thank you.
Good, wonderful. Well, so we have some questions that we would love to get in and ask you right off the bat, since we just have 30 minutes today. But I do want to make sure that if, at any time you want to add anything additional, please feel free to. And I thought what we could do is just kind of popcorn this around, and I'd love to hear from each of you. So my first question is looking at the why. Why did your school first decide to be part of the Brighter Bites experience? Why did you feel it was important to have Brighter Bites be at your school? Let's start with Brian over here, since he's over on my left.
All right, thank you so much. Great being here this afternoon. And so why Cherokee Lane decided to partner with Brighter Bites? Actually, we are extremely fortunate in our county where we have what's called a community schools coordinator. And 3 years ago, we were assigned an incredible community schools coordinator. And her first real partnership that she was able to seek out was actually with Brighter Bites. And it was due really because of a needs assessment that we did with our families and just kind of the food insecurities, not necessarily having a lot of those resources was the main reason why we wanted to start that partnership. So it's really with her, getting everything up and running off the ground that we've really been able to, to kind of have this partnership. But it's the why has certainly been about how this program has continued and flourished.
Great. Let's go to Amy, since you're also in Prince George's County.
All right, thank you for having me. Kind of similar to Cherokee Lane, we are a community school and we looked at our needs assessment. One of our top 3 needs is definitely filling in that food security. So being able to provide our families with additional resources was a big plus for us. It was also my biggest partnership when I started. I believe Jezereth and I are both under the same cohort, so we started together. And Brighter Bites was definitely a blessing. I think after that first year when we started, the pandemic hit, so it served a double purpose for us as a community school, trying to fill in. There was already a need prior to the pandemic, and then during the pandemic, it definitely was a bigger need. So our why was definitely trying to provide extra resources to our families, but then it became such a bigger need that it turned into something very different. Also trying to connect with the families and making them a part of our school was one of our other goals. So I think that it served 2 purposes.
Love the goal-oriented piece of this. That's great. Dr. Broadway, you want to share with us your why?
Yes, ma'am. Of course, very similar to what they have said. It was presented to us at the district level, and we very quickly jumped on it and decided as a campus to apply for the program. We're a very high percentage of free and reduced, and we already had several families that were taking advantage of a program where we sent home snacks with them for the weekend, and we know the statistics behind unhealthy eating habits for families within high poverty areas. And we really like the education component because kind of telling the kiddos the why behind choosing to eat differently and helping them understand that. And I believe, like Amy might have touched on, bringing in our families to help with the process, help them have some ownership of it, but also kind of help with the community as well. So it's kind of a win-win-win.
Oh, I love that. And how did you know, Dr. Broadway? I was going to lead next into the community piece, because one thing that's so important, and I know you all know, is with Brighter Bites, is not only are we actually happening inside the school and we're having we're working with you all with doing nutrition education lessons in the classroom, and then what we're doing at the pickup time with the actual distribution. But we also have this community synergy that we want to make sure is happening. And we want to make sure that you all are able to make sure that your community sees that this is happening. And so I think what I'm really curious, and let's actually start, Dr. Broadway, with you, since you opened this door for us, is to be able to, if you could describe your school community's response to the Brighter Bites program.
Oh, it was absolutely amazing. The kids, the staff, the teachers, the parents, overwhelmingly positive. And we must have done it at the same time that Brian's campus did it, because it was during the 3 years of COVID. And so every year the process was different, because we could or couldn't be within a certain amount of feet of people. And we were or weren't masked. And the produce showed up in different ways. And so every year we gave it to families in different procedures. But every year everybody just pitched in and figured out how to make it work. And everybody so appreciative and so thankful, not just for the food, but for the information. And even though we knew how many families had signed up to get the produce, we always ended up running out, because there was always more that wanted it than we realized. It's been a couple of years since we finished our 3 years, and we still have families asking about it. So absolutely amazing.
Great. Yeah, I think you all share a similar common denominator, and that is that the pandemic was among the time frame of you all working with
Okay.
us. And
Yes.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely shifted a lot there. Brian, let's back over to you and let's hear about how the community, how Brighter Bites is, what your response you've heard from the community about the program.
In terms of the community overall, it's been a great success. Each year we've continued our participation rate. I think this year we're approaching 70%, which is phenomenal. You know, for us to have that many parents that are not only participating, but we know that they're then getting healthy produce to take home with their children. In terms of overall, it has been a challenge just for our building. We've actually moved buildings. So for our 3 years of having, 2 of the years would have been at different locations. And so that really just kind of was a logistical thing on our end. But I will say the Brighter Bites team has been phenomenal. And it really has, it's not just, it's kind of funny because, you know, everyone's like, oh, the Red Shirt Wednesday, whenever we'd see, because our distribution day is on Wednesday. So everyone having their Brighter Bites shirts on was just kind of funny. You know, it's everyone knows, oh, it's a Brighter Bites day. And so that not only would, you know, our families be looking forward to receiving that fresh produce, but our students as well. They knew, oh, it was getting ready to come home. And we even tried a few experimental things where we had, you know, some of our older students where they were trying, you know, to take things home on the school bus, and then also trying with like Uber. And so just, you know, any means necessary to try to get our families the produce, because they really have enjoyed the process.
Oh, I love hearing that. And I love that you gave the example of how we've tried to be creative with our schools and understanding that, you know, there are barriers, of course, to getting the produce home to every single family. And so the school bus option, and then also we have our partnership with DoorDash, and being able to make sure that in some of our communities when able to use that DoorDash delivery to be able to get the produce home that extra mile. So, Amy, what about you? Tell us a little bit about specifically from the community school coordinator role that you serve in. Like, what have you seen with the community response?
So similar to what has already been said, we had really good responses from our community, not just our parents, but also some of our other partners. Our first year, we were very active in how we did our distributions. We had other partners come and provide information about different assistant programs that parents could sign up for. The town would often also have things that we could include into our food distribution, such as masks or hand sanitizers. So we found that it was another way to get other partners to come and also engage with the community to provide resources. That year was very fun. I think we struggled a little when we came back into the building to try to find a way to continue to keep our distributions as interactive, still trying to figure out how we were going to do everything. But I have to say that our last year, which was last school year, was probably the best. We had the highest amount of parent volunteers for bagging, for distributions, and that was also our first year having to bag. Previous to that, we had the boxes. We thought we were going to struggle with getting parents to come, but it was honestly the connections that they built in coming to bag the produce or to give the produce out. They built a lot of friendships, the support groups within that. So I think that it was great to kind of see how parents were starting to support each other. Another thing that happened, our parents loved this so much, 2 people got employed through Brighter Bites. They started off as volunteers supporting the program and were employed. And I love seeing that, you know, parents growing and then empowering each other. Some of our parents started volunteering at other schools. So they started with us, and you know, and speaking to some of the coordinators, they said, you know what, I have time this day, let me know. And it kind of giving each other rides if they were supporting each other through that. We did our first parent field trip last year through Brighter Bites, which was really fun. I know the parents enjoyed it. So I think providing them with experiences that, you know, your typical school won't provide to parents has been a great way to get parents excited about it. Staff as well. We saw staff really engaging with the program. We had a social studies teacher for 5th grade really incorporate Brighter Bite lessons into social studies. So I think that we saw how excited staff was as well, not just to receive the produce, but to give the lessons, and they got really creative. We did a little race for the finish just to kind of promote doing the produce lessons and activities. What our community schools teacher liaison created a little raceway, and the cars were all vegetables and fruits. You know, we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun with the program. So I think we had really great responses. We're really gonna miss being at Brighter Bright School.
Yeah, and I think it's so much fun that you all put the creativity in it, because you really can have a lot of fun with produce. I mean, who knew? You know, and we try to bring that. We try to make sure, I mean, all the way to our logo and being a cute, whimsical logo that we have, you know, we really want to make sure that everyone feels that they can enjoy it and be able to come with creative ways. So much fun. Dr. Broadway, tell us a little bit about, oh, actually, I think I finished my questions. I think
Yes.
the community support, yes.
Yes.
And so leading into the volunteer component too, because I think I saw a mention in the chat box about volunteers, is, you know, I was curious if you all, and you could answer it however you want to, the volunteer, do you feel that the Brighter Bites program really kind of helped bring in people to your community and to your school that you may never have seen before, you know, parents that you haven't been able to connect with?
Yes, very much so. Especially our first year when we got to do the bagging, kind of like it sounded like Amy's last year. We had boxes the last 2 years because of COVID. But yes, we really loved the first year when we got to do the bagging. We had lots and lots of parents. And even the last year, we still had some parents, but yes, very much so.
Yeah, that's great, because that's something that we really want to make sure that other schools understand. And so if we have any other school representatives on the call today and then listening to the recording, is understand that, you know, that is a big piece of us, is that we really want to make sure that we have the parents involved, families involved, guardians involved, and so that they get an opportunity, a different opportunity to come into the school building. And so super helpful from that perspective. So
And
another question. Oh yeah, please, Amy.
Sorry.
Yeah, chime in.
I think another part is that I know a lot of community schools in Prince George's County do this at the end of the year. We do a lot of like parent celebrations. So for anyone that has volunteered, we've started to do like appreciation lunches, little awards for parents, and I think that goes a long way. At the end, last year when we did for partners and for parent volunteers, and parents shared how they felt that they were a part of the school. So I think that in finding different ways to include them and then showing them, you know, we appreciate the time that you've spent here. Like parents would spend literally the whole day bagging. So I think just finding little ways to show them that we appreciate them, they're a vital part of the school, you know, not just like in the education part, but other ways that they can contribute to the success of the school, I think is a great way to increase your volunteer numbers.
Great. Thank you so
Very
much
much
for
so.
adding that in. So another question that I have for you all, and then we're going to get to the chat box because we do have some over in the chat box. I'll make sure we give ourselves some time. One of the questions that we have is, what changes have you seen in your school family and your families as a result of the Brighter Bites program? So we've talked about the volunteers, we've talked about the fun piece, we've talked about the feel. Let's get into kind of the actual, not meat of it, but the actual fruits and vegetables of it. What impact have you seen?
I know
Start with
for,
Brian.
okay, I'm sorry, I just came off of mute. I know for us, one of the things that we've really noticed is in the cafeteria. A lot of our students, where oftentimes where it was, you know, the things that were green, or, you know, things that were of, you know, various colors on the lunch tray, oftentimes went in the trash can. And so now we've really seen our students, you know, kind of putting themselves out there and trying new things, where before they were, you know, for the most part, turned off the things that might have been considered healthy. And I definitely think, you know, with the lessons that they're getting from the classes, and then their parents also becoming, you know, more aware, we've definitely noticed our students, you know, really taking chances of trying new foods and, you know, saying, wow, this actually doesn't taste bad. It tastes actually pretty good. So that has been definitely a big thing that we've noticed in our students.
We love it. Reducing plate waste. That's fantastic. Dr. Broadway, you want to chime in?
I was going to say almost the same thing was seeing our kiddos try new things, at least be willing to, because they've seen new things at home, or they have seen new things at home in their bags, and they had learned about them during the education, during the lessons. And then it's a little more familiar to them, and they're a little less hesitant about trying the new things. It's definitely been a change that we have seen.
Wonderful. It's exactly what
Yes.
we want to happen.
Yes.
Amy, anything happening at Riverdale that you've noticed?
Yes, when we were going around to deliver the bags for teachers, kids would start to like look at the bag and start to identify like which fruits that they liked or things that they didn't taste before, or when they said, "Oh, that's a go food," or "That's a slow food." So they were starting to use the language. So that's something that we did see in our kids. But we also noticed that when we did things that were connected to, we did like Hispanic heritage, we had a loteria night, and we asked Brighter Bites to come, and they had a recipe that they worked on with the kids. So like including that into their culture was something big that we did as well. So in that, we also had people try new things, especially our last year. So I think that it was a really great way to connect culture and new experiences through food.
Oh, see, how did you all know? And I promise you all, we did not plant these answers. These are just amazing, because that actually is something, Amy, that I'm glad you mentioned the cultural piece of it, is that we do really want to make sure that we are being culturally relevant and appropriate. And that's also goes to like how we find our schools. So that everybody knows to be eligible to work with the Brighter Bites program, the school does need to have 80% or greater free and reduced eligible population and or Title I status, and then being in an under-resourced community is also, of course, kind of a qualification in its own. But we really do want to make sure that we are embracing our own organizational DEI goals and looking at being very inclusive and where we're the communities that we're going to. So I'm glad, Amy, that you mentioned that, because that even goes to the produce piece of really making sure that we're introducing new produce, we're getting produce that families in these communities are familiar with, but then also still challenging them to be able to try the new things that they may never have tried before. So one last question, we're running kind of tight on, we want to make sure we answer some of the questions in the chat box, but I wanted to give each of you a chance just to do a quick share of a fun story that you might have, something personal that maybe you found connected, whether you got to personally try something new or you watched a family or a kid do something fun with the produce. If you could share with us kind of a personal Brighter Bites experience that you've seen firsthand. And let's start with Dr. Broadway.
I tell you what, when I think of Brighter Bites, I mean, it just, the biggest smile just comes on my face, because nothing but positive, happy thoughts are associated with it. And probably one of my best memories of our time with Brighter Bites are my 4 custodians, because they loved helping deliver the food to the families in our dismissal line, and making sure that every car got what they needed and every kid got what they needed, and just took such great care and pride in taking care of the produce and the bags and the kids and the families and each other. Especially during the one year that pretty much no one else got to help us except for us because of COVID. It just was always so heartwarming to watch them work together and take such great pride in what they were doing. And for such a great cause and for such a great reason.
Yeah.
And our families were always so appreciative of those 4 ladies.
Oh, that's beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad we have this recorded, because then this is like historical moment where we're able to get these stories. So thank you, Dr. Broadway, for sharing that. Brian, you want to share any personal experience that you've had or witnessed?
So one of the things that I will share is, well, I see Jezreth, she's sharing something in the chat as well, so you can feel free to share that later. But one of the things is what Brighter Bites has really done is open the door to kind of these conversations of what do we do now? So Cherokee Lane, we're in our third year. And so it's really opening us up to building, we're in the process of, with some community partners, building a community garden. And so where we'll be extending really kind of what Brighter Bites started, where we'll be, not this year, but next year, we're gonna be looking to add a greenhouse, but really getting raised beds this year, and starting to grow our very own fruits and vegetables on our campus, to where our students will be able to utilize them. And then even over the summers, where students will still be able to come utilize those, as well as our parents. And so it is, we even for our career day, we had a group from our county that came in around composting. And so it just one small thing really has branched off, and we are continuing to grow kind of this Brighter Bites process, and I know whenever it opens up again, we'll certainly be looking, to apply. But
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see where we're gonna take this, from what a great start that Brighter Bites gave us.
That was beautiful. Love it. Love seeing how we could plant a seed that could expand in other communities too. So, Amy, a story from you or personal experience that you've witnessed?
So for us, I was just thinking about their garden because we actually started a garden, and it started with a salad party that we did through our Green Schools program, and then Rejni kind of joined in, and that that little small garden turned into something bigger. We have watermelons now. We have like a full garden. We've been able to help families in need during the summer. I've been kind of monitoring it while our Green School lead has been out, but that's not the story I thought about. I just kind of chimed into that part. During our first year during the pandemic, I think the biggest part for me was seeing how there were a lot of families that weren't unable to come pick up their produce. So we had a parent volunteer that started to ask who was in need, and she was literally delivering them to these families. So I think that was like the beginning of us seeing how they were really working together. Who was in need? How can I support you? Outside of just always looking at how the school could help, how they could help the school. So I think for us, really building on those relationships was a big part of the program. The food was great, learning the nutrition was great, but I think our biggest takeaway was really working together. Like that's something that we're going to continue to do through different programs at the school, already having built that foundation and that group of parents, and then they're going to keep pulling people in. So those are relationships that we built.
That's what community is all about. And the gathering of food can be the instrument that gets a lot of the community pieces together. So I love these stories. And thank you again for your time. We've really appreciated this. You all took personal time out to do this. So thank you so much. I did want to get to a couple of the questions in the chat box. And we have one from a participant that's asked, do you see school district support or support the program financially, even at a small level? I'll ask you all that question. We can answer it as well. And perfect that you're talking to the director of development. But I was curious, have you all heard of any schools doing that in your community? Is that something, because it's not something that we initially come in and mention at first. But from, like your school gardens, you've committed dollars to, or have you all worked with grants for that opportunity as well?
I know for us moving forward with that, like the gardening opportunities and things like that, our state of Maryland works closely with Prince George's County, and for us being a community school, we do receive additional grants from the state, and that's the funding that we'll be utilizing with that. But in terms of the Brighter Bites thing, there was no, I mean, that's just, all the awesome Brighter Bites brings themselves.
and the hard work that we do to find the funding to be able to bring that in. So, and I think you all mentioned, because you have a unique situation in Prince George's County, because Dr. Broadway, in Mesquite, do you all have a community schools project or the community schools model?
No.
Okay, yeah. So just a little unique with that situation in Prince George's County. Let's see, I have another question, and that is, do you find that the program helps connect parents and teachers at a higher level previous to the program starting. So now that you all have been doing this for a while or actually rolling off, have you found that the parents and the teachers have connected a little bit more? Yeah, right.
I would say yes. There were a lot of, especially in the beginning, when we were still in the pandemic, we had teachers after their classes were over coming to help distribute boxes and working together with families. And I think that really helped build those relationships. So, you know, the parents felt a little bit more comfortable having conversations, not just, you know, about school, but just building those personal relationships with staff. So I would say yes.
Yes, I would totally agree. Yes, most definitely.
That's great. And I think, yeah, you all shared a little bit of that as well, of how you've been able to see more in the more of the engagement piece.
Yes.
Well, so I think that's all the questions that we have. I don't see any other questions over here. But again, thank you three so much for doing this and being part of this, our first ever webinar series. So now you can say it was great that you joined us. As a kind of to finish up for today's, I know we're running a little over time, the 30 minutes allotted, but we did want to just remind everyone that we are in the middle of our back to school campaign. We would love for you to check out the link that we just had pop in the chat box. Of course, we are always looking for ways to invite you to join us. One way is definitely volunteering, and then the other way, by no means would we say no to any dollar donations. We welcome that to be able to help make sure that we can guarantee to our schools that we can be there year after year. So again, thank you all. We'll do a recap email that will have the recordings and any of the information that was shared this week. So thank you so much and have a wonderful rest of your week.